Hi guys. Um, Starting off right off the bat, you'll notice I look paler than usual. I am somewhat disheveled. I am still not feeling 100%. I'm still recovering from this reoccurring health stuff, which nobody needs to know about. I'm saying this not for you to feel sorry for me, just if I'm reaching for words or otherwise not at my best right now, forgive me. Okay, I wanted to address some things before they ran. Before the horses are out of the barn and everything like that. I have sent up various. Hey, I would like an apology. Not demanding, as some would say. Asking. I don't expect one. Apologies tell me a lot about who someone really is. And I think that Sargon proved my good assumptions about him by what he did. There was no but in what he said. Yes, it was in the context of a larger point. Yes, he used my comments to rebut what, people at VidCon and things like that were saying. But that's fine. When you put something up on YouTube, you recognize the terms of service mean YouTube owns it. People can use it. They don't need to get your permission. But the part where he actually apologized, and it was an aside, the video was not called Sargon of Akkad apologizes to Leanna K. That's important. The part he did was unequivocal. It was very strident. There was no but. No, but I'm going to use this. And he did not defend himself against any of the other criticisms I leveled against him. And some people tried to get him to do that. And I did not expect that. I'm glad he didn't. Message received. I know he heard me. He doesn't have to agree with me. He doesn't have to address everything point by point. The point is, he started the process of taking responsibility for what happens, the outcome of his content. And I think that is amazing. People may not remember that it back in the day when it actually happened, people denied it was happening at all. It was evidence, evidence, evidence. And of course you can't, right? You can't screen cap 72 hours of 500 tweets an hour, right? It's just impossible. You're drowned in it. And I think this shows a huge evolution, a huge progress in at least the Venn diagram of the internet that Sargon and I inhabit. He's showing himself willing to be a human being first and the bearer of an ideology or the bearer of an opinion second. And no matter what people believe otherwise, that is a mark of a decent human being. And this is why knowing when to apologize and apologizing without caveats is so important. In the realms that Sargon interacts with, just by the very nature of the internet, this cuck insult, this beta insult, I mean, that's what started the whole thing, right? He opens himself up to those attacks by apologizing for anything. That's not the easiest thing in the world to do. Why do I know it's not easy? Because no one else who I have requested an apology from has hit that standard. And he shows it is possible. And I know he's getting a lot of crap right now, and he would be totally within his rights to not be really paying attention to whatever's going on in Leanna land right now. So the fact that he took that step while his Patreon money is under siege, people are claiming he should be banned from various conventions. This shows some brass cojones on this dude, okay? Like, credit where credit's due. He didn't have to do this. And so again, I really think that as much as people like to criticize Sargon, and anybody on YouTube is going to be criticized, especially anybody with a sizable following, because you have to say somewhat extreme or controversial things to get a following that large on YouTube. It just comes with the territory. I'm very impressed and I really appreciate it. And I think that between him and Lacey and this back and forth, there's a small portion of sort of the geek adjacent YouTube issues-based content that is really building the beginnings of a productive dialogue. And that is amazing. This is how we get stuff done. Now, that was going to be this whole video. And then something else happened. Karen Straughan put out this video that was my long-winded apology to Leanna Kay. And it's an hour and 26 minutes long. Most of it is scrutinizing and criticizing me over an interview I did on Rebel Media with Lauren Southern. And then at the end, it's the, okay, I'm sorry, I guess, for making fun of the sound of your voice. That was actually it, I guess. Okay, sincere. At least I would rather people be sincerely begrudging than falsely effusive. Point was kind of missed, but that's okay. That's okay, because I'm not looking to... She also kind of apologized. She kind of apologized for tone on calling my ideas functionally retarded. She insists that, and she's right, that comment was not a personal attack. It was an attack on my ideas. I still think functionally retarded goes too far by her own admission in other parts of the video. Like, I'll get to it, but my issue here, too long didn't read, is that she's arguing both ends of criticism. She's hitting me on one side for one thing and then hitting me on a contradictory thing. One moment she's calling me functionally retarded. The other moment she's calling me reasonable and therefore held to a higher standard. It can't be both, Karen. Which is it? Okay, what do you actually believe? All I know is that you seem intent on criticizing the slightest little thing I do. And that is the important thing, not having a dialogue that leads to progress on important issues. And I believe, because she kind of worked up to it, she started saying, I can see why she was pissed off about these comments. That was the first thing that she said in the YouTube comment that I took exception to on other grounds, which I will get to in a minute. She went from that to repeating that at the beginning of the video again, then an hour and a half later offering a begrudging apology. Where we're left is that because of the hour and 20 minutes that preceded that, apologies are supposed to indicate to the person you recognize you did something that you have to correct and won't be repeated. And not only did Karen repeat some of the things I took issue with her about, but she did it before the apology. Watching the entire hour and 26 minute video, I think I now understand the disconnect. Karen and I are in this for different things. She, by her own admission, thinks I am... She didn't say the word threat, so I'm trying to be very careful. The problem with a video being that long on YouTube is it's hard to search back and forth and find the things. So I'm asking for, throwing myself on the mercy of the court sort of thing on that point. But she said something along the lines of, she is harder on me because I appear reasonable, because I am calm, and that means I need to be held to a higher standard of criticism. And I categorically disagree with this assertion. Equality means the same standards for everyone. My initial issue this time around was her reference to an interview I did on The Rebel, on Lauren Southern's old show, that people couldn't see because it was behind a paywall, and so people couldn't measure her opinion against what I actually said. So someone gave Karen, or she dug up, a stuttery copy of it that instead of presenting it in its entirety and uninterrupted and unedited, she cut in and out, stopping at at times to answer a question for me before letting what I said come up, things like that. This is framing. When you break something up like that, you alter it. You have adapted the work. It is not fair to have that be the only public metric by which I am judged. And so I really wish the whole thing was just released. TV chat shows aren't precise. And so little things that she's right. I said at one point, this person who was stalking me was eventually charged and plea bargained on a criminal mischief charge, essentially perjury. Now, she rightly said they're two separate charges. She also said that there is overlap between the two. Criminal mischief can be perjury, but perjury is generally considered more serious. She's right. I was not in a format where I could get to that level of precision. It was an aside. I have no interest in relitigating the Jian Ghomeshi trial. I do take issue with things like her bringing up statutes subsequently introduced by the liberal government that happened after this interview was recorded. This interview is pretty old. How do you know it's old? Lauren isn't even on Rebel Media anymore. She's down in the States doing her independent thing. So this was right after the Ghomeshi verdict. Okay? So her complaining that I didn't address things that happened after that, I don't have a time machine. It seems that one of the issues that Karen and I have is she tends to look down the slippery slope a lot and say, what could happen if this opinion persists? I don't do that. She reads in nefarious intent when I tend to give benefit of the doubt. We are going to come to radically different conclusions based on that. And that's fine. But I really don't see, based on her ongoing approach to me, even the beginning of a conversation. Karen, what you've basically told me is because you're holding me the slightest nitpicky, imprecise thing I say, the entire reason we were both brought on that show is we have different points of view. You spent an hour and 15 minutes essentially cutting me up, literally shredding it, chopping it into bits, saying where you thought I was wrong. When in fact, a lot of the time what you did is you just took it in a different direction. And you agreed more with me than you disagreed. So I don't understand the beef. You have your constituency of people who don't have to be convinced that the judge made the right decision in the Jian Ghomeshi case, okay? You have a different task ahead of you. You have a different challenge. The people I was speaking to were the ones that were absolutely beside themselves, feeling like the system is failing and it's against women, and they were feeling very upset and scared, and I was speaking to a different group. I don't know why you felt the need to rip me apart for that. But she thinks I deserve it because I don't lose my shit all that often. I cannot see under her description of how she's coming at this, how we could have a reasonable, productive, and pleasant conversation. I'd never actually seen the complete interview, and I was surprised how well I was able to recall what I said. That's hard when somebody comes back at something you said years ago. But yeah, I looked good. I was like, yeah, at least I got that down. That was the other thing that really made me sad, is things I was saying as jokes in that interview to lighten the mood, okay? She treated it as if it was stone cold serious. And it's much harder to tell that I'm joking when things are cut up the way it is. It's frustrating. Congratulations, Karen. You frustrated me. So there you go. You cracked me. Okay? I am now pissed off. Because I asked you not to do something and you did it again. I asked you to not take statements out of context, not manipulate media, and you did it again. There could be things that we could work together on or have a discussion trying to find some points of commonality. But when you say that you're going to be harder on me because I'm reasonable, and you claim you ignore more angry feminists, you don't. I've seen the honey badger content. Like, Karen, come on. Like, that statement alone. Have you seen your channel? You guys go after everybody, and that's fine. That's what you do. But don't say you don't. I took the bait once. This is me taking the bait twice. I'm not going to do it anymore. I am addressing these issues for you guys because I know a lot of people who like us both and would like to see us have a conversation. I am doing this out of transparency so that you guys know what's going on and why I'm doing what I do. Because part of the thing that drives me crazy about what Karen does is she guesses at my motivations and she's wrong. When, like I said, the honey badgers have my email. They could have reached out for comment. They spend an hour and a half to 2 hours cutting my stuff up, stopping and starting. Your rebuttal is always 3 times as long, 4 times as long, 6 times as long as the actual segment. The plot gets lost. I don't think this is productive. It's certainly not fun. It's upsetting people. So I am choosing to not continue it. I'm sure people will have questions, and I'm not just gonna shut this off out of respect for people needing to get closure on this. I'm very sensitive to the fact that this stuff means a lot to some people. And this stuff means a lot, especially to a lot of young men who feel very falsely accused, and a lot of women who believe in equal rights as a principle, believe in feminism on paper, but can't find a community within the feminist movement because shit's gone off the rails. And so I am doing this for you guys and trying not to get you caught up in something that, in my opinion, has just become ugly. You know, that's the whole issue with the sound of our voices like nails in the blackboard. That's just... That's not a fact. That's not even opinion. That's just being nasty. And my point, Karen, was you lose the right to say you are someone who bases their arguments on logic when you do that. You know, you do things with a straight face that you claim are logical, but they're very much appeals to emotion. The dead kid thing you brought up, being hit by a car, that's an appeal to emotion. Injustices in the justice system, which are the exceptions as opposed to the rule, that's an appeal to emotion. You know, I'm not doing this anymore. I just wanted to give it my best shot because I do believe that Karen Straughan and the other honey badgers are passionate, intelligent people who, like I said, yes, they're here to pick apart everything feminists do, and that's fine. The same way fire tempers steel, we should have our opinions challenged. But our opinions, what I said in that interview, not my mythical opinions on what the Trudeau government did after that interview was taped and aired. That's not fair. You can't claim I'm ignorant on things when it's not that. It's I had 90 seconds to make a point that you spent 15 minutes on. Obviously, the answer is going to be far less precise. And that seems to be the crux of the criticisms that Karen has with me, is that she thinks I'm imprecise. And you know what? She's right. In a lot of the cases that she picked at what I was saying, yes, I was imprecise because I was saying it in a way that the average person who doesn't really give a damn could understand and relate to. Because when you start getting into these weasel words, these problematic and this, that, and the next thing, people tune out. And yes, you can go back and find cases of me using those words because I admit I was trying to fit in with the intelligentsia so I could feel heard. I was trying to play ball and I was trying to do it the way you're supposed to. And what I learned is that's terribly ineffective. That's not, sorry, I'm trying to tame the frizz hair here, guys. But it's not effective. And so, as many people pointed out in response to her in her original comment, I have changed my approach. I've changed some of my opinions too, just by talking to a lot of people and being open and not just attacking. Why aren't you aiming for common ground? Why are you tearing up that common ground by moving the goalposts? Because I'm closer to your way of thinking. Go back and watch that video and see how many things you agreed with me on, emphatically agreed. I was surprised. I was really surprised based on the things you have said at me in the past, which I have felt like you could have reached out for comment from me and you didn't. Your choice. I was surprised at how much you unequivocally agreed with. And then you found something, but what about this? It doesn't matter. That wasn't my point. I believe in working together. In order to really get a plan that works, that can stand the test of time going forward, we need men's representatives of different races and socioeconomic backgrounds. We need women's representatives of different socioeconomic backgrounds. But I should be saying cis women and cis men, because then you have transgender rights that come into it and they have profoundly different experiences than people who do not feel like their gender was coercively assigned. I had a really wonderfully challenging discussion with a trans activist named Valerie Keefe. I think that was her name. I apologize, Valerie. I ended up apologizing to her a lot because, and so this is my own apology. This is how it sort of works in here. I'm not holding the bar higher than I do myself. See? One bar, one set of rules for everyone. But she took issue with my saying the term gender identity. And I was like, that's the accepted term in Canada. I mean, that's what was accepted in the charter. She prefers the term neurological sex. We're going to get too much pushback on that because some people claim, it's psychological, not neurological. But I actually see the logic in what Valerie said. She also said that trans woman and trans man should be spelled as two words, not the one you see normally in social justice circles, because it is an adjective that modifies the noun woman or man. It is not a completely different word than woman or man. A trans woman is still a woman the same way black woman, gay woman was the example she gave. And it shouldn't be treated as different. These are all modifiers within the sphere of womanhood. Brilliant, super intelligent, well thought out, awesome. I really see her point. Now, this is the point that most people go, we didn't agree on everything, but of course not. I am not going to change my way of speaking entirely just to placate someone's feels. But when someone makes a valid point about a term being more accurate and actually does tap into something I believe, I am going to give them that. I think intent really matters. I think you can say all the right words and still be shanking someone. And so getting into a terminology war is Orwellian, and I think it's more useful to allow people to define what they mean in the conversation. Okay, that's what you mean. I will accept that definition. That's how you're saying something. And this is why I don't understand the desire to pry open disagreements, to snatch disagreement from the jaws of agreement. It is counterproductive. We're not getting anything done by constantly fighting with each other. At some point, we have to stop fighting and start building. And to me, that's what an apology does. Now, Karen's apology did not do that. You have the right to do that, but understand that that doesn't make me feel like you'd especially be open to listening to me. By your own admission, you're looking for things. And so I hope you can understand. My understanding is that you're not interested in having a conversation with me more than you're interested in having a conversation about me. And that is your right. But, there are consequences to going on that way. And one of the consequences is you are putting our fans in common in the middle. And again, I ask, not demand, but I ask that you stop doing that. I ask that you stop using media that people cannot access in its original form. with this stop and start thing. When you did it to Gamer's Guide to Feminism, that was fine because people could go and watch their original video first. And that, I would appreciate it if you could encourage people to watch it first. So then when you cut it up, it's just like quoting it in a paper. Fine. But when people can't access the original in its original form, it is a form of intellectual dishonesty. You know people can't find the original. And this is why I decline to participate further in this. I've tried, guys. I've tried. But now that I've done that, let's be fair. At least Karen Straughan apologized for certain things. And there were specific things I asked her to apologize for. It was actually more about the sound of my voice comment, for the record. I have a real issue with people making fun of things that people can't control, because I see people that I think are wonderful human beings, like, Boogie2988 and like Rich over at Review Tech. They're constantly picked on for being fat. And they're wonderful people. And I have a real issue. And you notice they're both men. I have a real issue with people going there because their waistline should have nothing to do with the quality of their opinions. Unfortunately, we're in a paradigm right now where just the fact that someone's male is being used to shut them up in certain areas. Someone being female is used to shut them up in other areas. That's not right. Because, as Karen herself said, the smallest minority is the individual, and we do not respect individual rights nearly enough in this groupthink-driven, get votes, identity politics-driven society. Karen's absolutely right about the fundamental principles that our systems are supposed to be based on. I disagree that they are actually functioning along those paradigms. This is just my opinion. And I am saying this because I have the right to an opinion. And I want to lead an example of someone who is going to continue to speak my mind, even though, Karen, what you said could be seen as a rallying cry to your fans to come at me harder. And I don't appreciate that. I don't think you realize what that does. You are giving people permission to go after me unreasonably hard. Please don't put words in my mouth, and please don't use slippery slope arguments to try to disprove what I said. And if you go back and look how you argued it, you did do that a lot. And I'm trying very hard not to ascribe nefarious intent to you, but I think you are being reckless here. And if you don't, if you set your followers on me, I will deal with it. But that's not cool. That's really not cool to advocate that different people should be held to different standards in the question of whether they have a valid argument. I'm just, have I indicated that I object to this on practical, rational grounds? Enough, good. Because like I said, I got one more. Like I said, there were two more apologies I asked for. One was from Zoe Quinn. Do we need to know who she... If you don't know, don't worry about it. She's on the extreme radical feminist side. You may have seen her speaking at the UN. Zoe Quinn called me literally the devil in a series of leaked chat logs. That's where the Beelzebub comment came from. I decided to own it and make light of it. See? Beelzebub! Literally the devil. There we go. That was wrong. And yes, it was a private conversation, but it was a conversation full of influencers in the gaming industry. And it was basically creating a hit list for people. And I have subsequently been blacklisted. And I asked her for an apology about that comment because it's not fair. That's a personal attack. Come on. I'm literally the devil? First of all, what grade is this? Second of all, you expect to be taken seriously as an advocate for women, and you're doing that? You're acting like the cast of a Lindsay Lohan movie behind closed doors? That ain't cool, girl. So I asked for an apology. Nothing. Katherine Cross, in the same series of leaked chat logs, who is the secretary or treasurer or something like that for ding, 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 feminist frequency, said I was bad for women. Again, a completely, no evidence even offered, but a completely disprovable statement. It's very hard to say that one individual is overall bad for all women. That is foolish. That is Marxist class-based identity politics bullying right there. And again, here are people giving reasons why this group of influencers has the moral license to dehumanize me. I'm bad. I'm literally the devil. I'm not a person. I'm a demon. Some nice gingerphobia there, Zoe. You know we were burned as witches back in the day, and we were burned for being the spawn of Satan? Yeah, doesn't happen so much anymore in this part of the world. But you just stepped in the social justice puddle there. But no apology. And these are people who claim to be anti-harassment advocates, and here they are using tactics of dehumanization. No apology. And so as much as, I don't see any real reason to attempt to try to reason with Karen Straughan, she at least seems like something of a grown-up here. Like, at least she begrudgingly took some responsibility for going over the line. Here are people saying, we are victims advocates, and they're the aggressors in these situations. And that tells me a lot about who they are, because they know what I'm saying. I'm sure I got back to them, even though they got me blocked, and I'm on all these block lists and blah, blah, blah. And so here we have a so-called harassment advocate calling a woman who was a victim of harassment literally the devil. And this whole other group of people who were in chats for something called the Crash Override Network, which is supposed to be an anti-harassment network. They were all cheering this on. Nobody challenged it. Nobody said, guys, she's been through a lot. She's been through her own shit. Disagree with her ideas, fine, but nobody deserves to be harassed. That is not what ended up happening. The blacklisting that there is evidence that they deliberately perpetuated is real. I mean, the problem is that these conversations are had on Twitter, and I don't like that. I don't even like going back and forth in YouTube videos. Opinions are not conversations. I believe conversations should be had between two people without an audience. Public debates are a very different forum. You can't personalize those. If you're going to actually hash something out, it should be in private. So that if people make mistakes and people misunderstand, there's a chance. Intentional dialogue is actually quite boring and long, even longer than this, I know, okay? But and this was years ago now, that I said I would like an apology. Here's what's happening because those logs hit, and it was drama. And the reason you do these videos is people ask. Like, I woke up this morning and it was a million links to Karen's video, okay? It was just like, oh my fucking God. But I had to sit through it all because I thought, okay, if she's attempting to apologize, I have to at least hear her out. That's fair. And she did apologize right at the end. So at least I can say, because I think a lot of people are going to check out before then, she did say it. Not so of Katherine Cross. Not so of Zoe Quinn. And if I have to rank who has actually most personally wronged me of the four people here of Sargon, Karen, Zoe, and Katherine Cross, Zoe ranks the top. Completely hypocritical as well. In the grand scheme of things, what Katherine Cross did, take of that what you will. I think Karen is on sort of a similar strata. She keeps removing the context of the things I say to make me look as bad as possible instead of taking a dispassionate approach to what I say. That ain't good. And the problem there is that the honey badgers have a very large audience who do get excitable And they can get, when you give people license to go after someone harder because they're less bad, like, you're more bad because you're less bad. You seem willing to have a conversation. Get her. I can take it. Don't get me wrong. I'm just disturbed by the precedent this sets. And then, Sargon's followers did harass me, but they're his followers. And they stopped eventually. A lot of them became fans of mine, and he's apologized. So unequivocally, like no debate. So that one, awesome. We're good. No problem. I'm even, maybe it's a chance to have another go, like another discussion. Who knows? I don't know what we'd really talk about because it's about gaming, so we'd have to find a topic on gaming. But because of that, I'd be willing to try again. He's acting in good faith. So Sargon wins and apologies. It's not a contest, but... And this has been long because I want to get it all out there, and I wanted to put, my praise of Sargon and my criticism of Karen in perspective of, look, I don't like some of the things Karen Straughan has done, but I am not going to do to her what she did to me. I am not going to say, I am going to be rougher on you because you seem more reasonable. I don't feel like it's fair to criticize people who are on more of that men's rights spectrum of politics without contextualizing it with the bad behavior of people who are self-described feminists. I believe in giving greater context for the things I say. So I want to be clear, in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't affect my life very much. It's an hour and 26 minutes I can't get back, but we need to collectively do better. And that's why I want to praise Sargon, and I wanted to talk about my version of having to apologize for something. And I know there were people saying, you didn't need to apologize for that. But I do think we can all learn. And that comes from having an open mind. And so hopefully that's the message I did in this much longer video that I intended, but it was a lot, right? I went through a lot. So hope this gives some clarity to people and gives people a sense of what's been going on. And hopefully at least you feel like I've been fair. And again, I don't have one standard for one person and another standard for another person. It's one standard for everybody. Do you meet that? Awesome. Do you not? At least Karen tried, We're never gonna be friends, but she has that right? At least she's not refusing to give me a single point on the board. And that matters. And I think it's very important that we can see people with very different ideologies as our own as having something to offer the conversation. Now, I'm not going to get the same. It's okay. Fine, Karen. The gloves are going to be off. But again, guys, I am not, we can, it's not that I'm going to ignore your comments. I know that this is something that people are probably going to have questions about, but I am not going to relitigate years old stuff over and over and over and over again. We just don't play nice with each other. Like, you have made it clear how you relate to me. I don't like these rules, so I'm not going to play. I don't like the idea that you're going to hold me, that you are going to be more critical of me than some out there kill all men type, because I'm not, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's giving me any credit for trying to see your side. I was really surprised that that's the core of it, I guess. I'm still processing it. That's it? That's what's going on here? Really? Like, really? But I feel like if I continue, I'm going to make an ass out of myself. Because when you have been given a set of conditions that heads I win, tails you lose, which is essentially what's going on here. I make the slightest little nitpicky error, she's going to pounce. Instead of looking at the overall context of my statement, well, this is the only winning move is not to play territory, isn't it? I cannot make peace with you here. This is where you and I are clearly fundamentally different. Because I can't hold you to a lower standard because I'm trying to end this beef. And I am happy to be judged on what I said in context, in its entirety. But cherry picking and twisting facts to make them fit their point, that's what feminist frequency does. That's what the people you oppose do, Karen. I'll leave it there.